Okay, welcome back to another book review. I'm actually going to do two this month. Reason being, I was contacted by an author, Timothy Stormcrow, to just have a look, to read and review his fiction book, The Lich Before the Darkness. Now, as I said, it is fiction. I normally don't do fiction, but I thought, I do enjoy fiction as well, but so we'll give it a try. It really is fiction. So there's not a lot of magic that I can actually talk about. So that's a bit of a, I don't know, disappointment, I suppose. But he did just want to get it in front of people, and I appreciate that. As an author, first-time author as well, it's difficult to get your book in front of people. So the book, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really entertaining. It could do with an editor or at least a copywriter. There are some spelling, grammar mistakes, some punctuations here and there that aren't in the right place and whatnot. But apart from that, really good book. I found it really, really cool. It was entertaining, as I said. But basically, it follows three people: Ashlyn, Eric, and Maeve. And it's kind of like jumps from chapter to chapter and kind of expands more on their what's going on in their lives and things like that with each progressive chapter. Now, you'd think that they would all come together at the end of the book, but they don't. And this was a bit confusing. I had to actually go and watch some other reviews to actually find out that this is going to be part of a series. So you get to the end of the book and it just kind of ends. So if you are going to read this, just to bear in mind that there is, I believe from what I heard from other people doing reviews of this book, that it's going to be a part of a 3-part series. Obviously there's no indication of that when you buy the book, so it's a bit misleading, a bit, I think, I'm sure the author's actually listening to this. I would get those books written as fast as possible, because what's going to happen is people are going to buy this first book, they're going to come to the end, it just ends, the people don't meet, there's just complete disconnect, and they're not going to bother queuing up for the next book, because they don't know that it's part of a series. So yeah, definitely get those books out as quickly as possible. But as I said, great book. There isn't a lot of magic. It's about vampires and werewolves and remnants. There's some bits about brownies and things like that. There are particular chapters that are scattered through the book called elsewhere chapters, and it's kind of about what's going on in other parts of the country. Stories that are happening and everything else. Apparently, again, I picked this up from the other reviewers, so it wasn't clear. So again, a bit of a disconnect there if you're just going to go in and read this without understanding what's going on. So yeah, entertaining, but a bit difficult. Lots of disconnects, not a lot of real magic, obviously fiction. Belphegor's in here, but he does demand sacrifices. And there's a heavy lean on Duplancy's idea that Belphegor is the ambassador of France. So, there's some research, but, demons don't, as we know, demons don't demand the life of people. But again, fiction. So, But yeah, so as I said, not a lot of magic in there, but entertaining, interesting read. And that's why I'm going to do 2 reviews this month. Now, the other one is this book, another Roger J. Horne. I do like Roger J. Horne. The Witch's Devil, Myth and Lore for Modern Cunning. And I'm not going to bother going through Amazon reviews and things like that, because this is Roger J. Horne. I think he is an absolute brilliant author and teacher. He's like one of the old storytellers that you kind of get together around a fire and listen to. He really is just really, really good. So, The Witch's Devil by Roger J. Horne It's deeply rooted in folk witchcraft, as usual, while being unafraid to walk hand in hand with the demonic. This isn't a casual read for the curious newcomer. It's a guide, a grimoire, and a personal testament for those already walking the crooked path, or those who hear its whisper and are bold enough to actually follow. At its core, The Witch's Devil is an exploration of the demonic figure that lies at the heart of folk witchcraft, the witch's devil, often conflated with, but distinct from, the Christian Satan. Horne draws a clear line between the misunderstood cultural overlays that have stained this figure over time and the deeper primal archetype that emerges when we look through the witch's eyes rather than priests. His goal isn't just to reclaim the image of the devil, but to reintroduce readers to its function in the craft as initiator, transformer, and psychopomp. Now, before I get to the synopsis and the good bits and the bad bits, I just want to actually point something out. Hold on, I need to grab my other phone. So if you're going to go on to if you want an ebook and you don't want a physical copy, then the only place you can do that is Kindle, and this isn't actually formatted properly as an EPUB. So the only place you can actually read this, if you do buy the Kindle version, is on a mobile. You can't. I've tried to open it on my laptop. It won't open through the Kindle app or even the browser app on my laptop. It really just looks like the pages of the books as they have been printed. So as I said, it's not formatted properly, so you can only open it on your actual mobile device. So just bear that in mind, because although the pages are kind of condensed, you kind of zoom in and you can read. If you zoom into a page, you can actually read it just fine on a mobile, on a phone. But you might battle if you are going to go down that avenue. So just bear that in mind, whether you want to buy the Kindle or the paperback version. But to get back into the actual synopsis and stuff, so the book is structured into several key sections that move from mythopoetic reflection to practical occult application. Horne begins by discussing the devil as a mythic archetype, not just a figure to be worshipped or feared, but as a mirror and guide, a part of the initiatory current that stirs the witch's blood. He places this figure in context, not merely historically, but magically, showing how the devil embodies the powers of liminality, nature, wildness, sexuality, and also death. He weaves folklore, ritual experience, and demonic philosophy into a coherent worldview. The devil here is not a metaphor or symbol, but a living spiritual force, one that the witch may enter into pact with, not through submission, but through mutual recognition. Later chapters cover devotional practices, ritual observations, trance, dream, and visionary contact. Horne doesn't just tell you what the devil is, he offers a framework for actually encountering this being in your own work. There's also a powerful through line about becoming. For Horne, the devil is not just a spirit outside of us, but the flame that catalyzes our transformation. He speaks of sovereignty, not as isolationist power, but as the sacred reclamation of self through ordeal, devotion, and demonic guidance. The devil in this context becomes the gatekeeper of your true will and the path to personal and magical liberation. So let's have a look at some of the strengths, which this book has a lot of. One of the most obvious strengths of The Witch's Devil is its clarity of voice. Horne writes with conviction, and more importantly, he writes from lived experience. This is not regurgitated folklore or armchair theorizing. It is the work of a practitioner who has walked this path long enough to be fluent in its language. The devil he speaks of is not a concept. He is present, powerful, and awesomely beautiful. That sense of presence bleeds through the page. Horne's mythopoetic writing is especially notable. He doesn't shy away from the lyrical or the dreamlike, and he's capable of conjuring atmosphere with remarkable precision. For those of us who walk the crooked path, this style is more than aesthetic, it creates resonance. He speaks in the tongue of the other, the same language we hear in trance or in the twilight space between worlds. That alone makes this book stand apart from many of its peers. Another strength lies in its refusal to sanitize or domesticate the devil. Horne does not attempt to make the devil palatable for mass consumption. He doesn't reduce the devil to a psychological shadow, nor does he lean into the hyper-edgy satanic posturing that you find in some corners of the occult. Instead, he treats the devil with reverence and realism, as a spirit who is as dangerous as he is liberating, as wild as he is wise. This is a rare and welcome stance in modern witchcraft writing, where too often the authors seem to flatten the power of these entities to fit a digestible worldview. Finally, there's the sheer boldness of the work. In a time when much of witchcraft publishing leans into commercialization, Instagram aesthetics, and vague spirituality, The Witch's Devil feels like a defiant candle burning in the dark. It speaks directly to the witch who isn't interested in being safe or acceptable. It speaks to those who want to confront the raw, transformative power of the craft. That said, the book is not without its limitations, and these should be acknowledged, especially for those who may be considering it without prior exposure to traditional witchcraft or demonic work, and specifically to Roger J. Horne's work. First, its brevity may frustrate some readers. The book is tight and densely packed, but many of the ideas deserve further exploration. There are moments where Horne introduces a fascinating thread, such as the nature of the devil's realm, but doesn't fully unpack it. This may leave some readers with more questions than answers. For seasoned practitioners, that's not necessarily a flaw, but for those newer to the path, it may feel like being dropped into deep water without a guide. Second, this is not a how-to book in the conventional sense. It is written in the language of the initiatory path, where meaning is often found in nuance and symbol rather than direct statement. For those unfamiliar with this kind of occult prose, the book may feel vague or even cryptic at times. Another potential issue is accessibility. This is not a book that holds your hand. There are no appendices or correspondences, no basic primers on trance or circle casting. Horne assumes the reader already knows how to work ritual, how to approach spirits, and how to navigate altered states. That's not necessarily a flaw. This book wasn't written for beginners, but it does narrow the audience considerably. And finally, there's the matter of context. The Witch's Devil is steeped in a very specific stream of traditional witchcraft, or as Roger J. Horne himself prefers to call it, folk witchcraft, one that blends folkloric daimonism with ecstatic praxis. If you're coming from a more Wiccan or ceremonial background, or even a chaos magic framework, you may find some of the cosmological assumptions unfamiliar or jarring. That said, this can also be a strength, as it challenges the reader to step outside their habitual structure and confront something older, darker, and more primal. Where The Witch's Devil truly excels is in its ability to reframe the witch's relationship with the daimonic in a way that is empowering rather than submissive, and liberating rather than adversarial. This devil is not your enemy, nor your master. He is a force of wild knowing, a teacher who appears as a beast, a lover, a shadow in the woods. And if you walk with him, you walk into your own depths, where power is not given but remembered. This framing is deeply important for modern practitioners, especially in a climate where witchcraft is often diluted into wellness culture or spiritual consumerism. Horne reminds us that the craft is not safe. It's not meant to be. It is transformative, confrontational, and soul-altering. The witch's devil is the one who turns the key in the lock of the soul's cage. He does not save you. He dares you to save yourself. This makes the book more than just a magical manual. It's an invitation to initiation, not the kind that's given through lineage or organization, but the kind that happens in dream, in blood, in the silent communion between witch and spirit, the white thread initiation. It's a book that whispers, and if you hear the call behind the words, you'll know what to do next. So, in summary, The Witch's Devil is a powerful, provocative work that speaks directly to the heart of the traditional witch. It's not beginner-friendly, nor does it try to be. But for those who are ready, those who have walked the edges of the path and are hungry for deeper contact with the devil, it's an invaluable guide. Alright, so I just want to read a few things that I've picked up. Hold on. Just a few things I marked. I didn't mark a lot. I mean, the whole book is just, I'd rather read the whole book, but I can't do that. Let's just see, where does this start? Luciferianism on the whole, though, is largely theistic, and Luciferian organizations have traditionally regarded this being as a form of deity to be worshipped. Witches of the folk variety, like myself, can understand and sympathize with this position, but our engagement with our devil is quite different in nature. The witch's devil, for many of us, is spiritual but not theistic. Our devil is a teacher, not a god, an ancestor, not a deity, a figurehead of the other world, not an omnipotent presence. I think that's a very important note. Let's see what else I marked here. Just to expand on that, actually, unlike the powerful entities recognized in other spiritual movements, the witch's devil is not, in the strictest sense of the term, a god. He is not worshipped by most witches in the traditional way that one worships a deity, nor is he recognized as the creator of the universe. He does not hold unlimited power. He does not control the fabric of existence itself. He exists by his very nature on the periphery of things, and it is in this understanding that we find the true nature of his power. I will say, there's also inclusions of Baphomet, comparison with the devil and Baphomet in here. So he goes into the aspects of the devil not just being this masculine figure, but a non-binary figure, really, which I thought was great. I think in our modern age, that is definitely something we do need. I did like this. It was actually in regards to working with the various medieval grimoires. If the spirit catalogues in the grimoires were written secretly by priests and monks within the church, a fact on which most scholars agree, then what are we witches to make of the subjugation of these ancient spirits, now reduced so small as to fit 10 to a page, stripped of their peoples and their temples? And how will we be received when we call upon them using the instruments and designs of their enemies by those who would attempt to torment them and bind them ruthlessly for petty gains? Will they recognize us as kin, or will they mistake us for their old abusive masters of previous centuries? I just love how he writes, love how he puts things. He's just absolutely brilliant. Here's a bit about the, actually there was a bit before about the gender relation. Let me start here. These gender-based reductions are harmful. They leave many pagans feeling unwelcome in our traditions, but they are also simply not historical. And also, to add to that, he says his gender is a complex reality that simply does not fit by any reckoning into modern heteronormative models, and if this makes us uncomfortable as witches, all the better, for the otherness he embodies is a potency that is not tapped without discomfort. Love it, absolutely love it. All right. Switch my eyes back. Hold on. There we go. Okay. So, loved the book. It's Roger J. Horne, as I said. I love Roger J. Horne. I think he's absolutely brilliant. Brilliant author, brilliant teacher, and you can't go wrong with any of his work. And that brings us to the end of the book reviews for today. Okay, thanks for watching. Links will be in the description if you do want to go buy them on Amazon. I do get a commission, and I thank you if you do go and buy from Amazon, because then I can buy more books to review, and the cycle continues. All right, so have a good one, and cheers for now. Bye-bye.